Hello and welcome to the Authentic Creative, expanding our capacity to feel good. I am so delighted, honored, and excited because Kate Taylor is here. And I'm going to very briefly read her bio. And I love the fact that it's in first person because we all know that we're the ones writing it. And it's always in third person. And you're like, okay, you're just pretending. I love this. I love that you're saying, Hi, I'm Kate Taylor. I've been in the fashion industry in a handful of different ways. I've worked as VP of sales and marketing for a clothing company where I got to work as a fashion designer. I learned the ins and outs of behind the scenes fashion, from styling to design to trade shows to fashion weeks. What I love the most and what fulfills me is helping people to truly discover their image and allow it to shine, along with mentoring some of the most incredible people and fashion stylists anyone has the privilege of knowing. Along with my experience in fashion, I also have a Bachelor of Science in Health Science and Psychology and a Master of Arts in Organizational and Corporate Communication. So I have the tools to ensure anyone's expansion and success. And she also has a podcast called The Kate Taylor Show, which I started listening to, and it's so wonderful. Thank you, Kate, for being here, taking the time. This is such a privilege. I know you because of Kathy Heller, being in her world. I've listened to, I think, at least one of your interviews. You've been on her show at least twice, right? Two or three times?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure because I've been in multiple programs of hers, like as a guest speaker, and sometimes it's
She
like, oh my God,
records
this is
it.
so good. We need this on a podcast. So at least two times, maybe three. I'm not sure.
Yeah. And so one of those stories you told was so incredible. Well, there's so many stories that you've told that are so incredible. There's like four different things I'm thinking of. But one is having the courage, and this is called the authentic creative, to step out of conformity and be your authentic self. So that I think is such a beautiful story. And I'm curious if you feel safe to share anything about that, your journey from conformity to authenticity. I'd love to
Totally.
start with that if that's okay.
Yeah, totally. I'm an open book. So there's nothing I really keep secretive, I would say. Unless I'm like processing something and then, waiting to get on the other side of it. But yeah, growing up, I had been very focused on my education, and mainly because that was how I received love and attention and the pats on the back, like the accolades
Yeah.
from family and um just anyone in my life that I deemed meant something to us were always just impressed with scholastics. And at the same time, my cousin, who was like old enough to be an aunt, but was a cousin and was close enough to be a sister, she was on, when I was still a kid, she was on track to finish her fellowship at the time to become a physician.
Hmm.
And she was who I looked up to. Like she was the black sheep of the family because she just went outside the norm, and I loved it about her. And she was amazing at just connecting to people, and everyone loved her. Like everywhere she
Hmm.
went, everyone loved her. She was so giving, she was so lovely. And I wanted to be her. And she was a doctor, so it was like, well, this works out. If I'm focused on my schooling and I want to be like Debbie, then I should become a doctor. So I absorbed my life of become a doctor, and that was very um accepted by my family. It was very exciting that Kate wanted to be a doctor, and that was like, yay. Well, I did all of the schooling. I moved to Boston for grad school. I did post grad work. I was working at a Harvard institution, had Harvard recommendation letters, and just needed to submit my application to apply for medical school. Like I'd done MCAT prep, I'd taken the MCAT. I had done literally everything. My friends
Hmm.
would joke that I was already a doctor, but obviously I was not. Um, but I did a lot in there. And I was ready to submit my application with all these glowing recommendation letters and realized I didn't want to be a doctor. What I
What was the
really
realization? How did you come to that?
it was I think the perfect storm. I think that I very much believe that the universe has your back and we are constantly in a co-creation with the universe. And sometimes we get a little lovely tap on the back of like, hey, come this way. And we're like, oh, great. Okay. And other times it takes like what feels like a boulder pushing you down. And usually, unfortunately, I'm the boulder. I need the boulder a lot of times because I get very fixated on things. Um, so
So,
luckily, this one wasn't a boulder. It was like not just little taps in the back, little pebbles. It was like more rocks. And it was I was in charge of the physicians at the hospital in one particular department. We had trainees that would come and cycle through our department, and I was in charge of them. There was a director who was a doctor, but he was obviously doing patient work. So I was the one who basically ran that program. And the doctors would come to me, the trainees would come to me, and they would, I was kind of their, I guess, confidant slash psychiatrist slash like a lot of different things. So it wasn't just
mhm.
like, oh, go to Kate's office so you can sign your paperwork. It was like they would come in, and sometimes it was just like they would be so like, especially in the
They
beginning of
felt
their,
safe with you.
they
Yeah.
felt safe with me, but especially in the beginning of their rotations, they would tend to feel very overwhelmed because it was brand new and they
Mm,
were scared
mm,
and they were like, I don't know enough to be here. What am I doing here? I feel like a
mm,
fraud. Like, so I would hear all of their things and I would comfort them and just let them know, like, you're going to be fine. Keep going. We got you. And once they felt comfortable with me, they, started to build friendships and have open conversations with me where they said, look, if you could do literally anything else and feel happy, you should consider it because medicine for us, it's going a little bit away from patient care and a little bit more towards politics and numbers and it's not
mm,
feeling as good as it did when we started out training for it.
mhm.
So I heard that. And then the main thing was, again, I was there for probably 10 years. Um,
Oh, wow.
I was in Boston for 15 and I probably worked in that industry for about 10 while I was going to grad school, doing post grad work. I was working full time and going to school full time at night. So a little bit of an overachiever there, obviously. So anyway, the final straw for me was two things. One was the attending physicians. So those are the physicians that worked for that hospital in our department. They were the ones that were there. I was not in charge of them. I was in charge of the trainees. But the attendings, the ones that were there year round all the time, would not see significant events in their own families because they would be at work. So like
Mm,
kids' first steps
mm,
or kids' recitals or weddings or like big
mm.
things, big
Yeah.
events that they would just have to miss because they
Yeah.
had to work. And I was like, well, that feels like kind of a bummer. And I knew that would be me because, as you just heard, I was like full time work, full time,
Mhm.
school. I would have been that person who wanted to be there all the time to do the research and get more advancement and like try to help as much as I could. I knew that would be
Yeah.
me. I knew that
Yeah.
would I would live there,
You're all
right?
in. You're all in.
Exactly. I would live there. So that gave me a little bit like a second check of like, not sure if I love that. And then the final straw was the last couple years that I was there. My boss, who she previously had done my job, trained me how to do it, and then she took over a larger role. She actually helped run the annual vacation lottery. And you guys, what that means is there are these physicians who are world renowned physicians, like have written medical textbooks that medical schools use.
Mhm.
I mean, are very accomplished, very intelligent, very impactful physicians. Were sitting in a room with 50 of their peers in a lottery for who got Christmas and who got Thanksgiving. And do I get to see my kids this year open gifts on Christmas morning? Do I have to do it
Mm,
2 days before? Like, and I
mm,
just was like dumbfounded. Like, how
mm.
do you get to this level of accomplishment and achievement? And you don't have control over that. And so I think that was just like the final straw. And look, they knew it going in. Like it's not like a big surprise where it was like, oh my God, this is so horrific. I'm treated so terribly. They weren't treated terribly. It was just like that's what they signed up for. That's just how it works. That's the easiest fairest, I guess, way to do it. So they knew it. But for me, it was a final check of I want to be in control of my own life. And this very much feels like I would do another 10 to 15 years of schooling beyond what I had already done,
Mhm.
and still not have control of my life.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit like, I don't love that. And on the side for fun, like literally just for fun, just to have like a creative outlet, I was doing makeup and fashion just for like literally for
In
free. The
all your
person,
extra time.
yeah, exactly.
Oh
Exactly.
my God.
Any extra nights and every weekend, I would be doing makeup and fashion. So that, and I was doing it for free. The woman that I was working for in the beginning would just like kind of tip me if, if we got tips,
It's
she would like,
such a movie. Your life is such a movie. Oh my gosh.
and she kind of like got to this place where we were getting so busy that she needed more help than just the small amount of time that I could give her. And she kind of said, look, I'm at a place where I need more help. I'm going to have to hire someone. I'm, I want to offer it to you because obviously you've been here with me, but I know you have a track that you are set down. So if it's not you, that's fine. It just has to be someone. And I just wanted to let you know first. And in that moment, I was just kind of like, what if it is me though? Like, what if it could be me? And
Hmm.
decided I'm going to take a hard left. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to start doing this full time and completely go against the grain and have to tell my family I'm not going to medical school. That was a very
Yeah.
long answer, but that was kind of the process.
Yeah. And then your sexual identity became the next
Yeah.
outing.
Yeah,
Yes.
that happened another 10 years down the road, right? Like
Okay. How old were you when you did that first hard left?
the first hard left would have been, it's now been about 15 years. So
You're like 30 or
how old
something?
am I? Oh my God, you're my best friend. No, I am not 30.
No,
I'm
no. When that happened, were you like
Oh, I thought you
30?
said I'm like I'm not 30. I'm 43 now. So minus 15 would be 28, yeah?
Okay.
So yeah, about 28. It was
And then 10 years later, you're like 38-ish.
exactly
Okay.
38ish and had been very um your typical white straight female my whole life. In junior high, high school, and college, I was very involved in the church and was like, when I say very involved, I mean like leading worship, leading uh, Bible studies. Like I was the one,
You're all
the
in again. Yes.
exactly youth group team leader. I mean, my friends joke if there's something I join, I will end up being president somehow. Like that's just kind of what I
Who
do.
you
Cause I'm
are.
like,
Yeah.
wait, I can do it. I can do it better. Um, so yeah, I was very involved, moved to Boston, was still involved with a church there, but um was it was really like this eye-opening experience when I moved to Boston because I had never fallen into the rhetoric of what I was hearing of like it's terrible to be gay. You're going to hell if you're gay, like
Hmm.
all of these things. In the beginning, I was very much like, oh my, it was a fear, like, oh my God, like what if? And my mom,
Hmm.
who had been single since divorcing my dad, I mean, she had a couple of boyfriends, but nothing ever stuck. I remember when I was first started going to church when I was in middle school, I got so scared that this is such a funny story. I got so scared that my mom was gay and that's why she didn't have a boyfriend that I
Hmm.
came home and I was like, Mom, are you gay? And she was like, What? No. And I was like, Yes, you are. I think you are. And you're going to go to hell. And she was like, First of all, I'm not gay. But second of all, if I was, it would be fine. No one's going to hell. Like she
Hmm.
was always just like, we do not believe that in this household. Like that's not acceptable behavior, not acceptable rhetoric. And
Bless her. Bless her.
yeah, exactly. And I was just kind of like, but I still lived in fear around it.
Hmm.
But then as I got older and high school and college, I just kind of would still like hear those things and be like, I just don't buy that. I just
Yeah.
don't buy that is like just because someone loves someone that's a different gender, that means they're deemed as like the worst like how is that?
Right.
It just blew, I just
Doesn't
never
add
really
up.
bought it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I moved to Boston and for grad school and to work at the hospital and both of which I had not secured before I moved there. I was just like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm moving. I had applied for the grad school, but I had not heard back yet. And the hospital job was through that same cousin that I told you about earlier. She had a connection with this institution, and I was going on a wing and a prayer that it would work out. It both worked out, but I didn't know. I was like, we're going to manifest it before I knew what manifesting was. Um, so I moved to Boston. All of a sudden, it was like this beautiful, eye-opening experience of everyone is okay. Like you can accept everyone. It is not, there wasn't this like what I kind of felt was a push down in the South of like, this is how it is, and this is what's right, and this is what's wrong. You don't feel that in Boston. Boston was, Massachusetts was the first state to legalize gay marriage. So it's very much just like, we believe that you get to be whoever you are. Like there's nothing.
I was born there and then I went to college there. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yes.
a great freaking place. I mean,
Yeah.
I love Boston. We want to get a house there again eventually. But
Oh, nice.
point is, it was very eye-opening and I felt very free. It was like, oh,
Mm.
I feel like I can breathe.
Mm.
And it wasn't even anything about my sexuality. It was just like, this feels good to know I can love everyone. What I've been thinking this whole time, and I'm just not going to listen to this other stuff. And
And now, also, the other thing that's happened is you've come out of that belief system a bit more and have really opened to your spirituality in a very kind of vast way. And even recently, from the podcast I was listening to, you're really just kind of letting go and sloughing off and having what you guys were talking about, a shamanic death. And
yes.
I want to hear
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah.
I know we're kind of skipping ahead, so if I
No,
missed
no.
anything
Yeah.
you want to share, like go ahead.
Yeah.
But
Well, just to close the loop on that last bit,
yes, yes.
I'm living in Boston. I'm doing all the things, and COVID, right
Yeah.
before COVID hit, I started doing a lot of therapy around a pretty traumatic experience that I had had in my life with a previous boyfriend.
Mm.
And through that therapy, I just kind of like one day realized I was just open to love. Like I didn't actually need it to be a certain gender. If it was a man, I was like, okay, I guess that's fine. I have nothing around that, but I am just open to love. Now, fast forward to now, I'm not open to men. It is no longer availability for me at all. But at the time, it was like my step into it, right? Of like, maybe I just want to be open.
Yeah.
And I started getting more friends in the LGBTQIA plus community and just queer centric friends. I had some queer friends and it was just kind of like talking to them about I'm open to love. And they were like, cool. Yeah. I mean, whatever. And
And you're already in the fashion industry there, so it's very open in
oh,
that,
yeah,
right?
everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. And then through just like friendships, I ended up meeting my current partner and was like, wow, this is a thing. And that was a whole process for myself too. I did a whole episode. You guys can go listen to it. But I had this obvious, you know, awakening where it was like, okay, I am realizing I would like to not date a man. Like I want to date
Mhm.
someone else. And so I had this dual thing of like, I had found someone who I loved and it was like they had found me and it was amazing. And it was like nothing I'd ever experienced before. It was genuine, unconditional love. Like it was awesome. I mean, we were long distance and we were connecting on so many different levels. And I had to come to this place where I was like, I can't keep who I am a secret anymore because it means I'm having to keep my partner a secret. And
Mm.
that feels awful because I had been other people's secrets. Like when I was
Mm.
younger, relationships is like, well, we're not really official. So you're like, okay, it's our little secret, but like, ugh, I hated it. And I
Yeah.
had this realization of like, I'm doing that to them by not just sharing who I am. So I
Yeah.
had this kind of like breakout moment where I let everyone know this is who I am and I'm in love and I'm very happy to share about this person. They're amazing. Um, and yeah, that was going against the grain too, because everyone
Hmm.
had only ever seen me as the straight white female who,
Yep.
was in church and all of these things. So that was scary. And I had said to my team, we might lose followers, but that's fine if they were in our world and they don't agree with that. I don't know why they were here anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm fine with that. And, it's again, the universe works out for us. But I basically announced it, put it on social, sent an email, did the whole like just public thing. And we didn't have a single hate message, which was lovely. But we had a lot of unsubscribes, like people that just left quietly. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that's fine. Leave
Yeah.
quietly if you want. You don't have to. One of my friends in my mastermind posted this quote that's not hers, but I think it's amazing because she has queer siblings and was posting about them. And this person said, I can't believe you're posting about that. It's so wrong, blah, 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 blah. I'm unfollowing you. And she posted, this is not an airport. You do not have to announce your departure. I was like, that's amazing. But that was kind of the queer discovery and opening. And then fast forward to what you're talking about, the spiritual bit, that is another journey my partner and I have both been on. We started working with a shaman probably about, I want to say a year and a half ago now, maybe
Mm-hmm.
more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I started working with him just a little bit before my partner did, but man,
That's
the
about sorry to interrupt you. That's about the same time that I started working with a shaman. Was about like a year and a
okay,
half ago.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
then it is like
Yeah.
as a light worker, like as someone who is here to do good things, I'm up for the work. Like I'm up to do it. And some days it is just like, wow, I signed up for this. This is I'm choosing this. I'm actively choosing this. And I know it's good, but there is a lot that can come up when you are on a spiritual journey because if you are really doing the work, things will come up for you that you recognize as parts of you that create your identity of who you think you are and what you think you are all about and what you think matters and what you think is important. And you get this mirror in your face of, is that important? Like, is that really
Mm-hmm.
important? What if we were to take that away? Where would
Mm-hmm.
you lay your importance? Where would you lay your identity? And that was shocking for me. That was very eye-opening and such a blessing because you get to release these things. They're not actually serving you. You get to release
Mm-hmm.
these things that
Another freedom, another freedom.
yeah, yeah, and let go of things that you thought mattered, which again is another going against the grain because for me, I am very goal driven. I'm very accomplishment driven. And for me, those accomplishments were visible via dollars in the bank, clients in our repertoire, um, numbers on our Instagram account. Like,
Yeah, tangible, visible result.
yes. And then when you look at them, it's like, oh yeah, those are measurable. But when you look at them, it's like, is there a world in which your Instagram followers are just vanity metrics though? Like, do they
Mm-hmm.
really matter
Mm-hmm.
if you're not doing anything with them to impact them and help them? Potentially not. Potentially not. If you're just worried about it growing, why? Like, why are you actually worried about it growing? So we have been on a journey now, or I have with my shaman for probably a year and a half. I think I started working with him about 2 years ago, and things really started to shift about a year and a half ago, is what I think the timeline is. Where it is a journey of releasing, it is a journey of letting go, and it's a journey of stepping into the work that's actually meant to be done, I think,
So I have not worked with ayahuasca. I've only worked with psilocybin mushrooms. Is that anything as a part of the shamanistic work?
No, I haven't done any plant medicine um with him or outside of that. That's something there's like two things that have always been things that I've wanted to do and just have never had the right alignment with my calendar, or it has not felt like the right time.
Yeah.
Um, not that he's against it, but it's just not something that he doesn't do that with us, basically. Like he's more of our, I would say just like our uh guide, like our connecting point type of a thing, or it's hard to
Hmm.
explain, but it's not a plant medicine kind of a shaman, basically. Not that he couldn't do it. I'm sure he's done it many times. He's been a shaman for like 50 years. So probably he has many times, but I've never done plant medicine, nor is that something he does with us necessarily.
I'm curious if you would mind taking us into the world of the cracking open that you've experienced in any of those sessions with him. Like what was that like for you? What did it feel like in your body, in your mind, in your soul? Like what was the integration of that? Or I'm
Oh,
sure you're probably still integrating.
oh, daily. Daily. There's not a full integration. I don't know that there will ever be a full integration because you're just constantly on the journey. I mean, one of the things that he talks about is just really you keep going and you enjoy the journey, and we're here to do big things. Like the things that don't matter will come up and he will expand upon them so that you really get to see them and work through them, but it's not things that move the needle forward. So um, there's anytime I have spoken to him, it is something that, first of all, any of us that are working with him, we record every time we're like talking to him or in his presence or something, because he will speak almost like in parables.
Hmm.
So if someone asks a question or whatever, he will tell a story, and you have to kind of decipher because he'll be talking to everyone and you kind of have to decipher when he's talking to you or like what it is. And you don't want to interrupt, obviously, because he's like in the flow. So how did it feel? It just felt like, and I told him this, it felt like I had reconnected to my family. Like it felt like, oh, I've been looking for you. Like this is, and he said the same, like, well, yeah, I've been waiting, like I've been waiting for you. And it was just like, oh, okay, yeah, we're doing this, we're back on this path, and here we are in this timeline, and we're doing this and we're doing the work, and this is great. um and so my thing with him was, how do I keep that connection, how do I go deeper with that connection? And um he just spoke for like an hour, and it just felt, the feeling was just like, yep, this feels so right, this feels so good, and it feels so wise, and it feels expansive. um and it felt guided, meaning like I didn't feel alone in what I was doing. Like there's a
Hmm.
lot of work we have to do on ourselves that you do have to be the one to do it, but I wasn't alone in it, you know.
Hmm. Hmm. I'm curious about embodiment work because that's really where everything's headed now. How has that been for you? What was your first kind of segue into embodiment, and like what is that for you now? Do
You
you
mean
when
like when the embodiment, do you mean like adding the spiritual into what I'm doing?
I guess I'm not being specific. So, yeah, I mean, getting like literally getting into your body of
Hmm.
like meditation, breath
Hmm.
work, dance,
Yeah,
walking in nature, like those
I see what you're saying.
practices. Like,
I got you.
yeah.
I've always been someone who, so I was a dancer for about 18 years, and
Oh, what kind of dance?
I did ballet, jazz, and point.
Okay.
A little bit of like modern contemporary, but not a ton. My integrator, the CEO of my company, is still a dancer, and she is incredible. And she is a contemporary dancer, does a lot of modern, and she's awesome. But she still does it. But anyway, I that's something I've always loved. But when it came to the spiritual, dance helps me just like get energy out. But what really I found the most connectedness to, because I have this very strong balance of both the right brain and the left brain. And a lot of times the left brain wants to take over and run the show and control everything.
Yeah.
So for me, the biggest impact comes from things like breath work, EFT tapping,
Mm,
um,
mm,
any kind of meditative practice where it's like a guided thing that's helpful. I really have noticed a lot of shift of difference with different like hertz, so different like wavelength music where I can move the body or move energy or something like that. But the biggest thing for me is the tapping and the meditation. That gets me out of my head and allows me to fully be present top to bottom.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you help other people run their businesses, specifically fashion, but also other businesses as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
And when you're coaching them and guiding them, do you have them integrate any of this kind of embodiment or, breath or meditation or tapping
Oh
into
yeah.
how they
There's
operate their business?
For sure. There's a lot of times that I've had my students do tapping. Sometimes I'll put on a video and do it with them, or because I'm not trained in it, and I it's not something that I don't think I could do. Like if someone's like, "Hey, can you just lead a tapping? We need someone to tap." I could do it, but I always just feel like if there's people that are trained on it, like let's watch the person in a video that's trained on it. So
Yeah.
that's just kind of my thing. So I've done that many times with my students or had them do it. I've done a million guided meditations with them to teach them how to get into meditation, just to really start to visualize. I love visualizations. They're so helpful for me. And I do a lot of that with my students. Like there's a whole, I don't even know how many, but in the beginning of training calls where I'm going to teach, I will still start with like a meditation just to get everyone on the same page, get them present in their body, not thinking about what am I cooking for dinner and all of those
Yeah.
things.
Yeah, because now
Um,
that you've had these experiences that you've been having over the past year and a half, you've got this whole other way of relating to life. And now you're implementing that, I imagine, into the
oh
way
yeah.
you're guiding everyone. And
Oh
it
yeah.
must be just such a shakeup.
It is. It's also more than just embodying it with my students. I am like, I feel like I have a deeper understanding. It makes me a better teacher. It makes me a better mentor. It makes me a better coach because there's new lived experiences that I understand now on a level that I didn't before. Um, and I find that as typically, this is how it has been for me since I've started my business of working with different students and clients, where I'm teaching them or mentoring them or coaching them. Typically, how it happens is I will go through something, I will experience it. And then once I'm on the other side of it, all of a sudden my students will start to experience the same.
Hmm.
And because I've gone through it, I can help navigate it for them quicker or navigate it for them less painfully or, something like that. And since I was young, felt like that was something I was called to do. That if I was able to help someone else through my lived experience, I was going to do it. And I find that that is just my pattern. And I don't know that that's true for everyone, but for me, it is very true that I don't believe for myself. I have a saying, you cannot teach what you don't know, you cannot lead where you won't go, and you cannot give what you don't have. The cannot give what you don't have is from my shaman.
Hmm.
And so I added that one in. So for me, that means I need to live it to understand it on a level that I can really impact someone. Not necessarily everything, maybe, but that's pretty much been my pattern, I would say.
I've just been discovering human design over the past couple of years, and
Oh
it's
my gosh.
very like very 3 or 6 profile line what you're describing.
Mhm. I
Is
love
that
human design.
does
I
that happen to
forget what
be
line
okay?
I am. I forget
I,
what line I am, but I am the truest of true generators.
okay, okay.
What is mine? I should look it up. I can't remember. Catherine knows all of my human design stuff. I should just text her, but I can't remember what line I am.
That's okay. That's okay. So, paying attention to what's going on with you in this moment
Hmm.
as you're integrating the left side and the spiritual aspects and the logical aspects and I mean all of this doctor training you have and then fashion training and now spiritual training. It's like, where do you see yourself going? I mean, there's just you're so capable. Like you're just you have so much expertise from lived experience. Do you see yourself continuing to broaden in more and more ways? How is this vision happening?
Yeah, that's been part of this whole journey as well. Very much my focus was fashion stylist. I love my fashion stylist. It's what I do, so it's what I understand. Again, lived experience. But through the past year, year and a half, it has been very clear to me that I'm being asked or called or connected with doing more, so on a broader scale, and impacting more people. Um, Outside of just fashion styling included for sure. But yes, to answer your question, we are birthing something broader basically to reach more. And we've started with a couple beta things in the business where I'm working with any kind of business owners, but just diving deeper, getting quick results, connecting the spirituality, getting people aligned with really being lit up by what they're doing again instead of just doing it because it's pattern, um
I
and getting
also,
results.
I'm also just getting that you're going to be, or you're already doing with fashion identity work of like, who am I from the inside out and how can I express that in a safe way that feels
Yeah.
expansive?
Yeah, there's and it usually comes up with people asking me, how do I get out of imposter syndrome? Like I feel like I'm an imposter, or I feel like I don't know what I'm doing, or I feel like, so yeah, there is a lot of identity work for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, well, could we start to answer that question before we wrap up of like, what if someone has that question of how do I get out of that imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I mean, it's different for everyone. Usually I just kind of dive into, well, what's coming up? When you say I feel like an imposter, tell me more about that. Like you feel like you don't know enough, you don't know what you're doing, you feel like you do, but it feels fake. You feel like, because it's different for different people. For me, my imposter syndrome for many years was, who am I to run this very successful business and not have to go to a 9 to 5, not have to work with coworkers I don't like. Like, who is like, so I would wake up every day and I would say, and until I realized words were powerful, would say, yeah, I feel like I'm just like living a dream. And one day I'm going to wake up and someone's going to say, oh, you've been
Just
going on too
kidding.
long. Like you got away with it. We let you slip, but not anymore. And, that was my imposter syndrome. And one day I realized I kept telling that story and it was like, God, I'm just trying to create my own reality of that happening. I'm going to stop saying that because that does not have to be my lived reality. So that was my imposter syndrome, but it's different for everyone. Some people feel they don't have enough training or they don't have enough education. Some people feel like one of the women that I work with had said that to me, and I wasn't really sure of her background. She was new to me, and so I
Mhm.
said, do you feel like you haven't done this long enough? Do you feel like you don't have enough training? Like, where is the imposter syndrome really coming from? And she said, well, no, I've been doing it for 30 years. And I was like,
Right.
how do you have, in my mind, I'm thinking, how do you have imposter syndrome? You have so much experience. You have so many lived experiences that probably you have more experience than I do at this point. You know, I've only been doing this 15 years. So it depends on their situation, to answer your question. If it is the first, like, I don't feel like I have enough training, then I'm like, okay, well, a very quick solution to that is let's get more training. Where could you use more training? What would make you feel more confident? But really creating a measurable goal of, I want you to verbally tell me when I achieve this, when I accomplish this, when I understand this, when I learn this, check. You cannot squash my bones on this. Like, I will know I have arrived and I don't need to learn anything else to make me feel like I belong. So that might be one thing. If it's the other, which is just like, um, no, I've been doing it and I've got the education, but I still feel like a fraud. That's getting into the energetics. That's more about, okay, well, let's think about this. Before the age of 8 or 7, for some of you 5, what did you see or hear or know or experience that taught you that you weren't good enough, or that you were never going
Mm.
to know enough, or
Mhm.
you
The
couldn't have everything you
worthiness.
wanted?
Yeah.
Exactly. And then I do that kind of work. So if it's more of that, we just get into it, because usually imposter syndrome is coming from the little version of you saying, I'm fucking freaked out. Like, what's happening? We're doing
Am I
big
good
things.
enough?
Exactly. We're doing big
Yeah.
things. I wasn't necessarily told I was good enough, or I had to do this, or I wasn't loved. So there's a lot of things that we need to, release and work on. And if you want to work on yourself, you want to do any kind of personal development on yourself, start a business, because by
Mm.
God, not much is left hidden when you start a business. Everything comes to the surface when you start a business.
Yes, 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 yes. It's like a master class in self-development.
Oh my God. Just stuff that you're like, I thought I worked on that like 10 years ago. Why is that coming up? And it's like, it's just another, there's level to these bezels. There's another layer of the onion you get to peel away.
Just
And
get set that down again. Oh
exactly.
my goodness.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, so let's see. We've got a few minutes. I want to kind of switch gears to when have you recently, and this might take your time,
Mhm.
felt or experienced a hands of God moment, and what was that like for you?
God, so many times. Um, Let me think of a good one. I mean, honestly, I feel like I honestly feel like I feel it every day, especially since I've been on this journey um of releasing things that I thought were important or thought made me who I was. Daily I am discovering who am I without those things if I don't rely on those things. And because I've put less focus on that, um it almost needs a hand of God to work, because my biggest thing was control. I was a huge control freak, control everything and everyone that I could. Um and it's a safety thing, right? That's a fear thing. That's fear based. If you feel
Totally.
like you have to control everything and everyone, you're just living in fear, which is fine. We've all been there.
Totally, totally relate. I wrote a whole script about it.
Yeah.
It's like
It's like
totally
it's
relate.
very normal, right? And the another thing that has happened in the past year and a half is my mom has gotten pretty sick to a point where now we've moved her in with us and are her full-time caregivers. And my partner also lost their mother and their grandmother.
Mm.
Um it- all within, a couple years, which puts you in a place where you also can't lean your or rely on your identity as these vanity metrics again and all of these things. Like there just wasn't time for that.
Yeah.
So I feel like every day there have been miracles and magic and the hand of God and angels and fairies and all the things just being like, we got you. Focus on what you need to focus on, allow for what you need to allow, and we're going to work it out. And I kid you not, it is like every single day I'm like, okay, that worked. I don't know how. I'm not sure what, but it worked. And the biggest thing I would say the biggest thing recently has been recognizing that it is about your energetic. Like the control is your 5%. There's 5% that is like brain power, understanding. That's 5% of what's possible for you, right? The other 95% is your energetics, your mindset, like the work. That's 95% of what helps you accomplish things. If that's 95% of it and I'm spending zero attention on it, there's a lot that I'm missing out on. So the biggest hand of God thing recently was recognizing that deserves more attention. There needs to be more time spent there. There needs to be more awareness there. And as soon as there was, it was like, oh, everything became easy again, which is how I
Mm.
used to feel probably 4 or 5 years ago. My mantra was everything always works out for me. Everything I touch turns to gold. Everything
Yes.
flows to me with ease and speed and grace. I'm able to give back. I mean, I could rampage all day on
Yep.
where I was at. And then when the shamanic death occurred, which by the way is not, it doesn't feel good, just as a heads up. It's not a
Mm.
fun journey because you are
Mm.
like literally parts of you are dying,
Yeah.
not because you're not good enough as you are, but because you just don't need them anymore, but we're so attached to them, right?
Yep.
And so once you start to slough off those things, I lost that piece of me too, because it was just like, oh God, things are leaving, like panic mode. What do I do? I got to grab for anything. And
Yes.
all of a sudden, recently, I've really felt the hand of God being like, you need to remember who the F you are, and you need to get back into that power place of, I am powerful beyond measure. Everything is available to me at all times. And again, when I started doing that, and my partner does a lot of work on themselves as well, and we do work together, we literally, I'm not kidding you, we created a vision board one night for just what we're like currently going to create this. And they ordered it to get printed out. We're going to put it on our wall. But that was our attention and that was our focus. The next day we got like good news after good news after good news. I mean,
Mm.
like random stuff. Like my check engine light had been on and I needed to get, in California, you have to get a smog check and you can't pass with a check engine light on.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, oh man, okay, well, we got to take it get looked at or whatever. And so my partner was like, well, I'll take it and I'll just see what's going on. And they get in the car. This is the next day. They get in the car and they send me a picture of the dash, and it had gone
It's just
off.
gone. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Cody was like, I guess I'm just gonna get the smog check now. Like, I guess we're just gonna do that. So it's like little things like that. But the biggest thing around all this and why I'm even sharing that is before I used to race past these things and be like, great, check, moving forward. What's next? Like, I'm very like, and I think entrepreneurs are this way a lot. I got that done. Now what's next?
Yep.
Instead of sitting in that and being like, that was amazing. That
Could I
was
just enjoy
miracle.
it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
miracle. Like,
Yeah.
holy crap. That was
Yeah.
wonderful. We race on to the next. So a big awareness for me is stay in appreciation, stay in gratitude, like give yourself a minute to celebrate
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Check engine
Yes.
light wasn't on. That's great. We just go get the smog check, you know?
I feel like it's like building the muscle of things being easy and working out for you without you having had to control the strategy of it is a whole new gym.
Oh my God, yeah.
And it's
Oh
like,
yeah.
but then you're building this faith and you're like, oh, actually, universe does got me. But I feel like that's a daily to
It
just
has to be a daily.
we forget, and then we have to keep remembering.
It has to be a daily because as a race of humans, we are wired to look for what's not working or what could possibly not work. It's
Yeah.
literally how we're wired. Like,
Yeah.
well, let me think of plan B and plan C. And well, what if that doesn't happen? And then what if this does happen? Like, that's
Yep.
we from birth.
Hypervigilance.
Yeah. From birth, we're like trained that way because we just have this archaic part of our brain that's wired for fight, flight, or freeze. From like running from a tiger, which we don't need to run from anymore, but we're still
Mm.
wired for it. So it's like, what could happen? What could not happen? What might happen? That might not happen. And then what if that doesn't happen? So instead, we are trying to teach the brain how to not live that way. And I teach it to my students this way: the way you have currently been living is like in your brain, that neural pathway is like the Autobahn. You could go 500 miles per hour. No one's going to stop you. It is so smooth sailing. There's no construction. There's no traffic. You just get to zoom on by. That is that current neural pathway. What I am asking you to do is create a different neural pathway, a new one that
Mm.
says, I don't need to live in suffer, struggle, and fear. I can live in abundance. I can live in everything always works out for me. I can live in, I don't have to look for the possible dangers. I can live there. But you have to create the neural pathway, which means it doesn't currently exist. So almost you could envision it like I am trying to create a road through a patch of woods right now. Okay. So you start by walking it, doing like I am statements, doing meditations, getting into your body, like whatever. You start to create a path. So now you see a little path in the woods that like the grass is run down a little bit because you've been walking over it. Then next, keep doing the work. You start to add some gravel. Oh, maybe a car could go down there. Maybe we could get a car down this gravel road because I've been creating more of a path. Keep doing the work, and all of a sudden it's a paved road without construction. And your other neuro pathway has a construction zone inside of it, and you can't go there anymore.
Mm.
So, but you got to see like this is not just like, oh, I'm instantly done. Like you uproot something, you have to put something in its place.
I love the visualization. That's so concrete, literally. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
you
love
want to
it.
create a narrow pathway. It's not an instant. You can't build a road by blinking your eye.
Yeah.
So, got to do the work. You got to be in the work and create that. And once you create it, it will go quicker than your previous Autobahn. It will be such smooth
Mm.
sailing. Everything will work out for you. Everything you touch will turn to gold because that's all you're available for. That's your new belief system.
Oh my gosh. And it's so, I'm sorry to say this, but painful to watch. I'm just thinking of like my mom, for example,
Mm.
just older generations who didn't have access to everything that we have access to, and, or just it wasn't the thing. And so it's just painful to see that be so solidified and to want something different. And all we can do is be the example.
Yeah. And you know what I've actually learned even recently? Because I feel the same way. And I used to try to change my mom's mind on so many things. Like, you could make so much more money if you did this and this and this. But what I realized is that is their identity. It is
Yeah.
what they are connected to. So for us to take it away, first of all, it's to look at that and say that and see that, we're making a judgment. We're sitting in a place of judgment by saying,
Right?
you could be doing better. You could be doing more. So like, who am I to judge other people? Like you get to do what you want to do, right? It's not impacting me at all.
Yes,
It's
good
apparently
point.
working for you. You're getting something out of it. Whether it's a secondary gain or not, you're getting something out of it and it's working for you. Because if she were to come to me and say, you can't do your mantras anymore, you can't meditate anymore, you can't, I would be like, screw you. Like that is me. That's what I do. I would feel the same way. So I had to realize that too. Like this is her identity. And I'm trying to get her to change who she is. And she's feeling I'm not good enough. Kate thinks I'm not good
Mm,
enough
mm.
because I'm not doing what she's doing. So now like I'm bad or wrong and that's not what I want anyone to feel,
Yeah, you can't
obviously.
like guilt or shame them into changing. Yes.
Yeah, you got to do exactly what you just said. Just be the example, and sometimes people will decide to join you on that journey. I've had that experience with friends that I basically drew a line in the sand and was like, if you want to hang out with me, here's where I'm at. I'm unwilling to lower. This is not what I said to them, but I'm
Sure.
unwilling to lower my vibration to appease you. Although I used to be available for that, I'm not anymore. So if you would like to hang with me, if you would like to spend time with me, it's here. It's not there anymore. And I said it in a much different way,
Sure,
obviously, but
sure.
that was the message, right? And some friends were like, I want to join you there. That seems great. That seems wonderful. I want to do it too. Other people were like, I'm cool where I'm at. And it's like, okay, that's totally fine. You get to choose whatever you want. And you're here to learn the lessons you're learning. My mom choosing probably similar stuff to what yours is choosing. She's here learning what she needs to learn. And that's okay.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
we're just learning different things. We're on different paths for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And my mom is the reason I'm on this path, you know? So
Yeah.
not to degrade her in any way. That was
Yeah.
just a random example.
Oh no, I think it's a great example because we're very close to our parents and it's the first person we try to help because they've helped us in our life. And that's why I totally understand what you're saying because my mom, it was only my mom and I. So that was the first person I tried to be like, "Oh, there's so much more available." And it's a great example and then I had to recognize and I do a lot of parent work with my students and my clients too. I always say this is not anything to diss your parents. Your parents were amazing. They did the best they could do. There you are where you are because of them, but there is still learnings we get to get and without saying like, oh, they're so dumb or like dissing them. We don't need to diss them, but we can be aware of what we're learning from it and that's okay. There's
Yeah.
nothing wrong with that. We still get to have all the honor and respect for our parents.
You're so generous, and I just find your personality, the way you express who you show up as, to be so inspiring
Thank
and just
you.
so uplifting. And you're so authentic and you're so accessible. And I am just so grateful, grateful, grateful that I got to spend this time with you. It is such an
Same.
honor. Thank you.
Same. I appreciate you saying all that. That's very nice. I like that you see that.
And I should have mentioned earlier, I was wearing t-shirts, I was wearing sweatshirts, and then after you were in Kathy's Zoom, I started wearing things that were a little more stylish, had a little more, little just up leveled a little bit.
How did it make you feel?
I feel like I take myself more seriously. I feel like my kids take me more seriously when they see me around the house because I work from home,
Yeah.
but they see me dressed up every day. So it's like, oh, she's
Yeah.
at work. She's at work.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
It has such a
feel
domino,
more
such a
comfortable
domino.
being visible.
Yes. Yes. This
Yeah.
is what I wish everyone would get to because when people think about fashion or style or any of that or image, some people can get really in their feelings because it's very personal. And some people can think it's superficial. It doesn't matter. And Kathy said this in the calls, but Kathy was one of those people that was like, I'm just gonna be in my authentic self. I'm gonna be in my aviator nation. I'm gonna rock it out.
Yeah.
And I have great things to say. And I was like, you do have great things to say. And we could say them with a lot more impact if you showed up as the version of yourself that expresses exactly what you're already saying, exactly who you already are. Let's just connect them. Because right now it's a mismatch. Let's just align the message and make sure that it's one that you love. And anything with style and clothes and all of that should never be things you don't want to wear or things you're uncomfortable in or things that don't make you feel like yourself. They should be things that you're like, I feel like such a badass. Like, I love this. I feel so good. I like this color. I like this fabric. I like how it looks on me. Like, that's the goal for you to feel good. Because when you feel
Yes.
good, if your
Yes.
energy and your vibration is your priority, which it should be, then it's aligned, it's lit up, it's excited. And now, how much better of a coach, mentor, parent, partner are you going to be when you feel like, God, I'm having such a great day. I feel so good. You
Yeah,
know?
every time I catch myself in the mirror, I'm like, "Ooh, I look nice today." Like I feel
Exactly.
better. Yes.
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh. Thank you, Kate. You're
You're so
amazing.
welcome. I pulled this up. I don't know if this tells you what line I am. Does that tell you?
It tells me that your energy is very, very grounded and solid.
Okay.
But I
I don't
don't know what your profile lines are from that image, but that is a very cool, energetic
Oh, wait, profile. I'm a
profile.
3-5, the Great Life Experimenter.
Yeah, so that's exactly what I
You
you're
got it.
literally describing the three.
You
I was
got
like,
it.
you're either a three or a six.
Yeah. I'm
Oh
a
my
three
goodness.
five.
Yes, 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 yes.
There you
Okay,
go.
there we go.
I needed, see, I also have to have closure on things. So I needed closure on that. Well, thank you
And,
for having me. This has been amazing.
and we needed to hear your laugh, which
Yeah.
hadn't heard until that moment. So that's the perfect thing.
There you
Okay,
go. I
perfect.
like to laugh a lot. I'm like Elf in that way. Laughing's my favorite.
Okay, so for people to find you, do you
Yeah.
want them to go to your Instagram? Do you have a program you want to promote? What are you excited
Instagram is
about?
the easiest. I mean, we're building out right now our next round of beta. So if you are listening and you're a business owner and you would like to have an expert's eye on their business for a short period of time to get big results, we are taking applications for my next round of my business incubator. But the connection place, the easiest is Instagram, but I'm just basically Kate Taylor Stylist on all the things. So that's my website, that's my Instagram. You mentioned the podcast, that's the Kate Taylor Show. Um, but if you look up Kate Taylor anywhere, you're probably going to find me, Kate Taylor Stylist or the Kate Taylor Show. You'll find me.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you, Kate. And thank
You're
you
so
guys for
welcome.
listening. I hope you got so much out of this like I did. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for having me.